And I wonder, Tom Bauer, just starting off today, has Boris Johnson taken a gamble here in terms of dashing off to Ukraine, meeting with Zelensky? Is this trying to distract from some troubles relating to that facilitation of their £800,000 loan?
I fear it is. I mean, he had a habit, even as Prime Minister, of constantly going around the country, appearing in his yellow high-vis jackets, meeting builders or teachers or hospital workers to get away from the problems at his desk in Downing Street. And he really does believe that if he is seen in action on video, somehow people will forgive him or forget the accusations he's facing. But they won't forget or they won't forgive. He needs to sit down and fess up and explain his own conduct.
It is interesting because it does seem that Boris Johnson has been pretty cavalier with personal finances. We know he spends a lot, he's got a lot of children, and he does have a large network of people who are willing to give him quite a lot of money. I wonder, in the context of all of this, is that damaging for Boris Johnson and any potential comeback that may well be planned for the future?
Absolutely, of course it is. And the problem is it started with the dreadful decoration of Downing Street and the strange contortions he went through to try and find the money for more than £250,000 of ridiculous embellishments to that flat in number 11. His wife, of course, was very responsible for that. But I've got to tell you, I think with Boris, the problem is he has no concept of money. If he'd earned 100,000, he'd spend 150,000. And in that, of course, he's very familiar with the life of Winston Churchill, who was constantly facing bankruptcy and debt, and even had to sell his home at Charwell to pay for his debts. Churchill constantly earned vast sums and spent even more. And Boris seems to have absolutely no concept of how to keep control of his private finances, and is now going to come and haunt him.
This is a fascinating comparison because I suppose, are we being too harsh here? If we look to historical comparisons, Winston Churchill, of course, famously not good with his own money, but so was Disraeli, of course, had financial problems. And going even back further, Pitt the Younger had enormous financial problems personally, although with the country's finances, he was really quite good and financed the Napoleonic Wars in an incredible way. I wonder if we can make a separation here between the personal mess, as we've seen in many prime ministers of history, and perhaps a difference in a professional life.
Well, I suppose Boris wishes you could, but unfortunately, he was turfed out of office for lying. And that's the problem he now faces, that his record in office, having won that stupendous majority, is one of total and unfortunate decline. And it seems like leaving a legacy of a mess and the images of chaos, both in Downing Street and in his personal life. And I think that is what's sharply undermining his hopes of a return, of a comeback. I mean, unless he actually faces his own weaknesses and faces his own errors and repairs, and to some extent shows remorse, I think he can appear however many times he wants in Ukraine. It just won't form the basis of a recovery and return to Downing Street, which is, of course, what he wants.
And yet his sort of magnetism in Ukraine is hard to be overestimated. He's received a Medal of Freedom from Volodymyr Zelensky. He was given honorary citizenship of Kyiv. There are streets named after him. When he resigned as Prime Minister, the national railway operator of Ukraine replaced their logo on social media to have a little mop of blonde hair on top of it. It's incredible, the sort of esteem with which Boris Johnson is held in Ukraine. Is that something we recognise fully enough in this country?
Hopefully not. I don't see why, because he's a hero in Ukraine, people in England and Scotland who can't get their train on the 3rd of February because of yet another strike, who can't get hospital appointments, who face striking teachers and the whole thing, should in any way thank God Boris is revered as a hero in Ukraine. I mean, that's the problem. He thinks because he's a hero 3,000 miles away or whatever it is, that somehow he should be a hero in his own country. He may be a hero in his own home, which I sometimes even doubt, but he ain't a hero here. And he needs to recognize that. So he can go as often as he likes to Kiev and posture with Zelensky, who deserves as much support as we can give him. But it's not going to help him in Britain. And it's not going to help the Tory party either.